falls smack in the river, and pack and everything just all in the water. And it was good at that moment because it was one of those moments that kind of needed some comedic relief.
One-way trek. I look at Pastor Ben who's leading us, and he say, "So they have water there?" Because I just took my last sip of water, and Mike looks at me and he's like, "For real?" And so for the rest of the trip, he has this little water bottle that you have to like squeeze the life out of just to get a drop. And every time we get to a waterfall, like filling up, trying to suck this thing out because apparently Cinnabon, it's bad advertising. It just wasn't all it was cracked up to be.
So I laugh and see some things like him is a funny man. So it's it's funny, like funny things and hang out, make a joke.
So we went and we wrote the words that Jesus loves me on the board, and they really hadn't heard that song before. It was not one of the ones that they'd heard, and so that was really just thinking about my kids learning it and thinking about them learning it. Like they picked up really well, and it was just really a heartwarming, very moving experience for me.
It's always the toilets. I can never get used to them. For guys, I swear it's a lot easier, but for girls, it's...
The bike ride was a lot more interesting than I expected. Every corner is a new adventure because you're sliding through the mud because it's raining, and you come around the corner, you look over, and there's a mountainside there, and it's kind of terrifying. And I've had no shortage of grace and love this whole thing, and it's just been great.
On these trips are not something you do every day. It's a sacrifice, financially, emotionally, spiritually, but it's an experience that you won't get anywhere else.
My wife and I were sharing our testimony after Brian was teaching on one of our teaching nights. There's a moment there as we're sharing and talking through the struggles we have as Americans and talking to Filipinos who have completely different struggles, that God reminds me that we're all His children, and that the passion that I have for those in my own hometown, in my local Starbucks, at my job, God has as big of a passion for the people here in the jungles where they've never heard His name.
And there's a moment where my bike actually, we fell, and almost went straight off the mountain. And if he hadn't have turned it, then we would have, I wouldn't be coming back. And I hope I have a bike ride tomorrow. I hope I get to come back. But I remember just getting up, and like I hurt my ankle really bad, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just like, I don't know if I can get back on this bike, because I just don't trust that. And in that moment, I really had to trust God that He's sovereign in that, and He's in control of that. And if it's His will for me to get to that place, to get to those people, then that's what's going to happen.
And you're definitely living in and out of risk continually here. The transportation, just going down the hill was risky sometimes. But I would say this, for me personally, I've coming into this trip, I didn't really have a whole lot of struggle putting my own life at risk. But the thing that God's challenged me on this week is that I'm leading my family in obedience to Jesus, and I'm leading my wife and my sons to follow Jesus, and following Jesus is risky. And what I believe for my own life is that Jesus is worth it, so He's worth the risk. And so the challenge this week has been believing that Jesus is worth them taking risks as well. And so it's just been a shift in my heart as I go back home. I want to be willing to lead my family, even if it is risky sometimes, because Jesus is worth it.
Because I don't talk a lot, so just for me, I thought it would be very interesting trying to communicate with the people. But it doesn't take a whole lot of words to communicate and talk and just show God's love, and just to smile and a wave, and I make it a point to smile and wave at everybody that I walk by. And I think that really shows them that we're here because we love them, because God loves them.
Stay with, always trust with Him, especially His wisdom.
Feeling sorry for myself as we were literally walking into the village, that we had worked all day to get there. And of course, God worked on me, and the first person I saw when I walked in was just this little girl standing by herself that was the same size and age as my 2-year-old daughter Valentina. And so I looked at her eyes, and obviously it hit me right between the eyes, and just felt God saying, yeah, it's worth it. If that was Valentina, you would have walked all day to get to her, and even more than that little girl is just as important to Christ as I am to Christ. And so everything you go through to get the word to those people is worth it. And even going back home, whatever you have to do to build relationships with people or speak to them about Christ, it's worth it. But